Let me ask you something. Are you waiting for everything to feel right before you begin, for more money, more confidence, more clarity? I've got news for you. You're going to be waiting forever. There will never be a perfect moment. Life doesn't pause for you to get it all together. You start where you are, you use what you've got, and you build something from there. You've been told to wait for the right moment. You've heard it in conversations, in motivational videos, and even in your own thoughts. I'll do it when I'm ready. But here's the hard truth. There is no right moment. There is no magical alignment of circumstances. Everything feels easy. Where you're fully confident and the path is crystal clear, that version of the future is a fantasy. And if you keep waiting for it, you're going to wait forever. What you're doing is putting your life on hold for a version of certainty that doesn't exist. And while you wait for that perfect day to come, life keeps moving, time keeps ticking, opportunities keep passing. The reason this idea is so dangerous is because it feels smart. It sounds responsible to say you're preparing. It feels mature to say you're just waiting until you're more sure, more qualified, more financially secure. But what you're really doing is delaying your potential. You're hiding behind preparation as a socially acceptable form of procrastination. Because here's what no one tells you: you don't feel ready before you start. You feel ready after you've started. Confidence comes from action, not contemplation. You don't build belief by thinking about what you want to do. You build belief by doing it badly the first few times and proving to yourself that you can survive it. If you look at anyone who's built something meaningful, anyone who's transformed their life, they'll tell you the same thing. They didn't wait until it felt easy. They began in mess. They started in uncertainty. They took a deep breath and jumped in when everything inside them screamed for safety, because starting is never about the absence of fear. It's about the decision to move forward. Anyway, you can feel terrified and still take the first step. You can feel unqualified and still start learning. You can be in a situation that's far from ideal and still make progress. People overestimate how much they need to get going. They think they need perfect clarity, the best tools, and total confidence. In reality, all you need is one small step and the courage to take it. That's it, because the truth is, no matter how much you plan, how much you research, how much you try to prepare, real growth only happens in motion. Life responds to action. The lessons you're waiting to learn by thinking, they only reveal themselves when you're in it, when you're moving, when you're trying, and maybe you're thinking, but I'm not where I want to be. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough resources. I'm too far behind. That's not an excuse. That's your starting point. And it's enough. Everyone has to begin somewhere. What matters is that you begin. Progress is not reserved for the perfect. It's earned by those who are willing to show up exactly as they are. And there's nothing wrong with starting small. In fact, small beginnings where the most powerful transformations begin. A single decision, a few consistent habits, a mindset shift. That's where change starts, not in a grand moment, but in a quiet commitment to move forward. One step at a time. This is the lie so many people fall for, that the conditions have to be right first, but if you're always waiting for a smooth road, you'll never leave your driveway. Life doesn't clean itself up for your convenience. You have to be willing to build your future in the chaos. You have to be brave enough to start while you're scared, to create while you're confused, to move while you still have doubt, because there is no growth without discomfort. There is no change without risk. And there is no reward without the willingness to begin when it's hard. Stop looking at what you don't have. Stop obsessing over what's missing. Stop focusing on what you do have. Maybe it's your story, maybe it's your persistence, maybe it's your heart, your ideas, your willingness to keep going. Whatever it is, start there, use it. It's more than enough. And the sooner you stop waiting for everything to be perfect, the sooner you'll realize you never needed perfect to begin with. You just needed permission, not from the world, from yourself. The people who build powerful lives aren't waiting, they're acting. They're failing, they're adjusting, and they're growing. So if you're sitting on a dream, an idea, or even a tiny spark of desire, move, even if it's just a small step today, because every massive transformation began with someone saying, I'm not ready, but I'm going anyway. And so can you. We've been conditioned to believe that we need to have it all figured out before we begin, that somehow the right plan, the right time, or the right mood will magically line everything up. But the truth is, it doesn't work that way. Clarity is not a prerequisite for action. It's the result of it. You do not get clearer by sitting still, thinking endlessly about all the options. You get clearer by doing something, by taking a step. However small, and observing what happens. That's how you learn, that's how you grow, that's how you figure it out. Overthinking feels productive. But it's actually one of the biggest traps. It's just fear in disguise. It's your brain trying to protect you from discomfort, risk, or failure. You convince yourself that by analyzing all possible outcomes, you'll somehow avoid pain, but what you're actually doing is avoiding progress. The longer you sit in your head, the less confident you feel, and the further you get from the action that would actually help you move forward. When you take action, even imperfectly, you start to see what works and what doesn't. You get feedback, you build experience, you start creating real momentum. Every successful person you admire figured things out along the way. They didn't wait for perfect clarity. They stepped in unsure, often scared. Learn as they went. They didn't have all the answers. They had questions, but they knew the only way to answer those questions was by doing something. You don't get clarity from reading one more book or watching one more motivational video. You get clarity from trying something, messing up, adjusting, and trying again. That process is messy, uncomfortable, and at times frustrating, but it's also the only path to true understanding. You can't think your way into the life you want. You have to act your way into it. Waiting to feel ready is a form of procrastination, and waiting for confidence is backward. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes from action. Every time you take a risk, however small, you gain a little more belief in yourself. You start proving to your brain that you're capable, and that builds real confidence. The kind that's earned, sometimes you won't know what the next 5 steps are. That's okay. You only need to know the next one. Take it when you do the second step. Becomes clearer then. The third action turns on the lights in the dark room. You're standing and you don't need a spotlight to see the whole path. You just need a flashlight to take the next step. And once you do, momentum starts working in your favor. It's like physics. An object in motion stays in motion, but an object at rest stays stuck. You have to push through that first layer of resistance. That first step is always the hardest because it forces you to break inertia. But once you're moving, everything starts to change. Think about the times in your life when you were most proud. It probably wasn't when everything went smoothly. It was when you were scared but did it anyway. When you were uncertain but showed up when you had no clue how it would work out but took action anyway. That's where transformation happens, not in your head, but in your behavior, in your choices, in what you do. When it would be easier to wait, you don't have to be fearless to start. You just have to stop letting fear make the decisions you don't need. A perfect plan to make progress. You need a willingness to take the first imperfect step, and then the second, and then the third. That's how people change their lives. Not all at once, not with a dramatic breakthrough, but step by step through action that builds clarity over time. This is how momentum works. One small action creates a ripple. That ripple grows. It feeds ye brain. What's possible, and suddenly you're no longer paralyzed by indecision. You're in motion, and once you're in motion, fear loses its grip because fear feeds on inaction. It grows in the silence of stillness. But the moment you move, the moment you start that drawer, start that project, record that video, hit publish, apply for the opportunity, just start. And when you do, your brain will shift from worry to focus, from confusion to clarity, from fear to direction. Remember, you don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. The path reveals itself only to those who are willing to move. So take that step. Not tomorrow, not next week, today, right now. That's where clarity begins. It's not in your head, in your hands, and your feet, in your action. Most of the limitations we face aren't rooted in reality. They're mental. They're not actual roadblocks in the world. They're belief systems lodged deep in our thinking. It's not the lack of resources, time, or support that holds us back. It's the internal voice that says, I'm not capable, I'm not good enough, or I need more before I can start. That voice doesn't come from facts. It comes from fear. You see, the mind is incredibly powerful. It can build a future for you or destroy your confidence before you even take the first step. The truth is, your physical limitations are usually far less severe than you imagine. Most people are walking around inside mental prisons. They've built with their own doubts and insecurities. They think they can't start the business because they don't know enough. They think they can't change careers because they're too old. They think they can't pursue a dream because they don't have a perfect plan. And none of that is actually true. These mental roadblocks dressed up as logic, but when you look closely, they're nothing but fear in disguise. The biggest shift happens when you start to challenge those mental walls. When you catch yourself saying, I can't, stop and ask, is that actually true, or is that just a story I've been telling myself? 9 times out of 10, it's a story. Maybe you've been carrying it for years. Maybe someone planted that story in your head when you were younger. Maybe failure taught you to stop trying. But none of those reasons make the story true. Just because you've believed something for Long time doesn't mean it deserves to stay, and here's the catch: your brain is always looking for confirmation. If you believe you're limited, your brain will find evidence to support that belief. You'll start to notice every setback, every failure, every reason why things won't work. But the opposite is also true. If you believe you can find a way even with limited tools, your brain will start looking for solutions. You'll see opportunities in the middle of obstacle. That's not optimism, that's rewiring your thinking to support the life you want to create. Not the life you're afraid to live. It's easy to sit back and say, I can't do this because I don't have that. That's the easy way out. It keeps you safe. It keeps you from risking embarrassment or failure. But safety isn't growth. Comfort isn't progress. If you only move when everything is certain, you'll never move at all. Real progress happens when you're willing to walk forward with shaky legs and a shaky voice. You don't need to eliminate all fear before you start. You just need to stop letting fear dictate the narrative. The truth is, you're stronger than you think. You've overcome more than you give yourself credit for. You've handled hard days, difficult choices, painful to fear. Already proven your capability. You just forgot. When you shift your thinking from I need more to I'll make it work with what I have, something credible happens. You reclaim your power, you stop outsourcing your success to circumstances and start taking ownership of your growth. That's when momentum builds. That's when confidence grows, not because the path got easier, but because you got stronger people. Wait for confidence to show up before they act, but confidence doesn't come first, action does. Courage comes before clarity. Movement comes before mastery. Every time you show up, in spite of doubt, you train your mind to believe in your ability. You prove to yourself that those limitations were never real, they were just untested. If you want to break free from your limitations, stop focusing on everything that's missing. Focus on what's available. You've got something: time, experience, knowledge, ideas, creativity, resilience. That's your foundation. Use it, dismiss it, just because it doesn't look like someone else's. Starting point, this is your journey. You don't need perfect tools. You need to use the tools you've got. You don't need to fix every part of yourself before you begin. You just need to believe that progress is possible. Start showing up with the understanding that fear will be there, but it doesn't get to be in charge. Start pushing the boundaries of what you think is possible. One small action at a time. That's how mental barriers break. Not with one big dramatic leap, but with consistent proof that you are more capable than your thoughts suggest. Your limitations are not set in stone. They are flexible, moldable, and in most cases completely made up. So instead of letting your mind limit your life, let your actions challenge your mind. Move forward anyway. Trust that with time, effort, and belief, your reality will catch up to your new mindset, and when that happens, you'll look back and wonder why you ever doubted yourself in the first place. You don't need to start big. You just need to start. That's the truth. Most people overlook. We live in a world obsessed with overnight success, with viral moments and instant transformations. But what you don't see is the boring, small daily effort that came before the big moment. The hours. No one applauded the days. No one noticed the discipline to show up, not because it was glamorous, but because it was necessary. That's where real progress begins. Small, starting small doesn't mean you're thinking small. It means you're thinking smart. It means you understand how growth actually works. A tree doesn't sprout 20 feet tall overnight. It begins with roots unseen, uncelebrated, but vital. You're not supposed to have it all figured out at the beginning. That's not failure. That's reality. The people who win are not the ones who wait for the perfect time to launch big. They're the ones who take what little they have and start stacking it day after day. The reason starting small matters is because it gives you something powerful: momentum. You don't need to leap. You need to move. That's where confidence comes from, not from knowing everything, but from doing something. Each time you act, you prove to yourself that you can. You rewire your brain to believe I'm capable, even if it's just 10 minutes a day, even if it's one tiny step toward your goal. It matters. The small beginning is not the enemy. Your ego is that voice in your head that tells you it's not good enough, it's not fast enough, it's not polished enough. That voice that compares your beginning to someone else's middle. That voice is a liar, because the truth is every expert was once a beginner. Every master took their first awkward, uncertain steps, and most of them looked exactly like yours. What separates the successful from the stuck is simple. They committed to the small steps consistently. They didn't try to build a mountain in a day. They built a brick, then another, and another. They fell in love with the process, not the applause. They didn't wait for the results to show up before they believed. They believed, and then the results came. The problem with waiting to start big is that you miss the real value of beginning. When you start small, you learn fast, You make mistakes quickly, and that's a good thing because failure on a small scale doesn't destroy you. It teaches you, you adapt, you adjust, you refine. That's how progress is made. You don't skip the struggle, you move through it and manage pieces. It also builds resilience. When you do the work day after day without needing validation, you build something stronger than results. You build character. You become the kind of person who doesn't quit, who doesn't flinch when things get hard, who trusts themselves even when there's no finish line in sight. And here's the beautiful part: the small start keeps you grounded. It reminds you why you began in the first place. It keeps your ego in nets and your purpose clear. You're not doing this for the quick win. You're building something that lasts. You're developing the habits, the skills, the mindset that can carry you not just to the top, but keep you there. There's a reason people who achieve fast success often crash, because they never learned how to work with less. They never had to stretch their creativity to find solutions without resources. But you started from the ground up, you earned your growth, you know how to make progress in the dark without praise. That makes you dangerous in the best way, because you're not dependent on perfect circumstances. You create them. Think about the stories that move you, the people who inspire you. Rarely are they the ones who had it all from the start. They're the ones who begin with little and used it wisely, who didn't complain about what they lacked, but leverage what they had. That's the mindset you need, not one that's obsessed with how far you have to go, but one that honors how far you're willing to go, one step at a time. So when your brain starts shouting, "This isn't enough," answer back with this: "It's more than enough because I'm doing something with it." That's what matters, not how grand the beginning is, but how consistently you show up for it. With one idea, one commitment, one action. Start where you are, use what you have, and trust that it's leading somewhere greater. The staircase only, when you climb the first step, the truth is the people who change their lives are not the ones who waited until everything felt perfect. They're the ones who said, "This is messy, this is incomplete, but I'm going anyway." That's power. That's how you build something real. So don't underestimate your small beginning. It's not your weakness, it's your superpower, because it proves you have what so many people lack: the courage to start without guarantees. That's the first sign you're already on your way. When people think about success or change, they often believe they need more money, more tools, more connections, more education. And while yes, resources help, the truth is that most people already have enough to begin. The real gap isn't in what they have, it's in what they believe they need. That mindset becomes the biggest limitation. But here's the truth: what you have right now is enough to get started. If you learn how to work creatively with what's already in your hands, you'll move further than someone waiting for ideal conditions. There's a powerful shift that happens when you stop looking at your limitations as barriers and start seeing them as challenges to grow through. Every person who's ever built something meaningful began with fewer resources than they wanted. The difference wasn't in what they had, it was in how they thought. They looked at what was available, not what was missing. They looked at their current environment and asked, "How do I use this to move forward?" Not, "Why don't I have more?" Think about it. Some of the most successful ideas were born not out of abundance, but out of restriction. Creativity is often sparked when resources are limited. That's when your brain kicks in. You find new ways, you simplify, you adapt, you experiment, and guess what happens? Then you grow, you become stronger, you become more capable, because you're not just executing a plan, you're problem solving your way through it. The mindset shift is this: stop seeing your lack of resources as the problem. It's not what you don't have that holds you back. It's what you do have that you're not using. Maybe you don't have money to hire help, but you have time to learn something on your own. Maybe you don't have the best equipment, but you've got the drive to figure out how to use what you do have better than anyone else. Maybe you don't have connections, but you've got a phone, internet access, and the ability to build relationships one conversation at a time. Most people underestimate the value of what's already within reach. They dismiss their skills, their experiences, their networks. They wait for something bigger or better to arrive before they act. But waiting keeps you stuck. Doing, even when it's small and scrappy, moves you forward every day. You use what you have, you're training yourself to be resourceful. Building resilience, and that's worth more than any resource money can buy. Think about the people who built businesses from their garage, created videos with their phones, wrote books during their lunch breaks, launched ideas while working full-time jobs. They didn't wait for ideal circumstances, maximized what was in front of them. They became resourceful. That mindset is everything. When you choose to work with what you have, you begin to see opportunities everywhere. Let's get real, having more isn't always the solution. In fact, too many resources can lead to complacency. People who have everything handed to them often don't fight for anything, but when you're working with constraints, you build muscles. Others don't. You learn to be agile. You learn to make decisions fast. You learn to adapt. That's how you become unstoppable. Not by having it all, but by making the most of it. Also, if you're sitting there thinking you're not ready, that you don't have enough, ask yourself this: have you really used everything available to you? Have you stretched your skills? Have you tested your idea? Have you put in consistent time? Have you built connections? Have you stayed disciplined even when results were slow? Most people haven't. Most people stop before they start because they think what they have isn't enough. But those who make progress are the ones who do more with less. You might feel like your tools are basic, like your knowledge is limited, like your environment isn't ideal. But if you let that stop you, you're giving your power away to circumstance. The power isn't in what you own, it's in what you do with. With what you own, you are capable of far more than you think. But only if you step into action. Action transforms what looks like not enough into more than enough. So today, look around. What do you have? What do you know? Who do you know? What experience do you carry? What time can you carve out? What tools are already within reach? Start there, use them fully, push them further, get creative. When you work with what you have, instead of wishing for more, you'll build strength, momentum, confidence, and that is what real progress looks like, not waiting for a perfect path, but paving one with what you've got. Your story is not a liability. It's your greatest asset. The things you've been through, the heartbreak, the mistakes, the failures, even the moments you thought would break you, that's your fuel. But too many people let their story become their excuse. They look at what's happened to them and say, this is why I can't. They carry it like a weight that drags them backward, instead of realizing it can be the fire that pushes them forward. Your story holds power, not just because of what happened, but because of what you learned, what you survived, and how you chose to respond. Every single person you admire, every success story you follow, they didn't get there because life handed them a clean slate. They got there because they took what life threw at them and made something from it. They stopped hiding their wounds. They started owning their truth. That's what made them unstoppable. Your pain, your past, your doubts, they are part of your blueprint, not something to be ashamed of, but something to stand on, because the moment you stop running from your story and owning it, that's when you get your power back. Most people think they need to forget their past in order to move forward. That's not true. You need to make peace with it. You need to rewrite the narrative. Stop letting it be the reason you don't show up fully. Start letting it be the reason you have to show up, because someone out there needs your truth. Someone needs to know they're not alone, but they'll never get that chance. If you're still hiding from your own voice, the truth is your story gives you something no one else has: perspective. It gives you empathy. It gives you grit. It gives you a message that only you can deliver in the way you've lived it. And when you finally stop comparing your journey to everyone else's, when you stop trying to make it look polished and perfect, that's when people connect with you. Because authenticity is magnetic, realness is rare, and people are desperate for something real. There's also something powerful that happens when you stop feeling sorry for yourself and start asking better questions. Not why did this happen to me, but what can I do with this now? Not what am I missing, but what have I gained that others never had to earn that shift in mindset. Changes everything. It doesn't erase your pain, but it reframes it. It turns you into someone who grows through what they go through, someone who refuses to waste the lesson, someone who stops repeating the story and starts rewriting it. If you've been through hard things, you've developed strength most people don't have. You've built resilience, you've faced reality, and while others are still afraid of failing, you've already survived what they fear. That's your edge, that's your leverage. Use it. Stop looking at other people's clean stories and feeling small. Most of those stories are edited, filtered. Yours is real. Real is rare. Real is powerful. You need to understand is that your story doesn't disqualify you. It qualifies you. It makes you relatable, trustworthy, and strong people. Don't connect with perfection. They connect with perseverance. They connect with honesty. So instead of trying to erase your past or hide the hard parts, lead with them. Let them speak. Let them inspire. Let them remind you of who you've already become, not just what you've survived, but what you've built from it. This is how you turn pain into purpose, not by pretending it didn't happen, but by proving it didn't destroy you. Not by hiding what hurt, but by healing out loud. Every scar tells a story. Every failure taught you something. Every moment you got up when no one was watching. That's your legacy. You're still here, still breathing, still building. That means you've got more to do, more to give, more to grow. So don't let your story end in silence. Speak it, use it, turn it into the foundation you rise from, not the prison you stay trapped in. You're not what happened to you. You are what you do with what happened to you. That's where your power lives, not in a perfect plan, but in a resilient heart. Not in a flawless past, but in a fearless future. So own your story, use your truth, and let every more chapter become a reason. You rise, you won't always feel motivated, that's the truth. Nobody wants to talk about. Everyone waits for this magical wave of motivation to hit, like some invisible force is going to show up, flip a switch in your brain, and suddenly you'll be ready to change your life. But it doesn't work like that. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are fleeting. They come and go, like the weather. You can't build your life on something that's unpredictable. If you wait to feel motivated, you will keep waiting. That's why discipline matters more. Discipline is what you do when you don't feel like doing anything. Discipline is the commitment to show up when it's boring, uncomfortable, exhausting, or inconvenient. That's the foundation of real change. The problem is that we've been trained to believe we need to feel a certain way. Before we act, we wait to feel inspired. Before we go to the gym, we wait to feel confident. Before we speak up, we wait to feel ready before we try something new. But what if that feeling never comes? Then what? You stay stuck. That's why successful people aren't the most talented, the smartest, or the most confident. They are the most disciplined. They don't rely on their moods. They've trained themselves to act regardless of how they feel. They've built habits that carry them when their emotions fail them. And that's what you need too. You need to stop negotiating with yourself. You need to stop hitting snooze on your goals. You need to stop letting your feelings make your decisions. It starts small. You commit to one thing and you follow through. You say you're going to wake up at 6. Then you wake up at 6. Not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. You say you're going to work out for 30 minutes. Then you do it not because you're excited, but because it's part of who you're becoming. Every time you do what you said you do, even when it's hard, you build trust with yourself. You send a message to your brain that your words mean something, that your goals are not optional, that you can depend on yourself. And that's powerful because when you start to believe in your own discipline, you stop needing motivation altogether. You become someone who acts, not someone who waits. Discipline also creates freedom. Most people think discipline is about restriction. They hear the word and think of rules, pressure, limits. But that's not what it is. Discipline is the path to freedom. When you're disciplined with your time, you have more of it. When you're disciplined with your money, you create options. When you're disciplined with your habits, you create health, energy, and clarity. Every area of life improves when you apply discipline. It's not about punishment. It's about purpose. It's about being in charge of your life. Instead of reacting to it, here's another thing. Discipline is built, not born. No comes out of the womb with perfect self-control. It's something you train it the same way you train a muscle, with consistency and repetition. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you get stronger. Every time you push through resistance, your willpower grows, and over time, what once felt impossible becomes automatic. That's the transformation most people never experience because they give up too soon. They try to be disciplined for a few days. They don't see results, and they quit. But discipline doesn't give you instant rewards. It gives you long-term power. It gives you pride. It gives you identity. You stop saying, I want to be the kind of person who, and you start saying, I am the kind of person who. There's something deeply fulfilling about knowing that you showed up for yourself. Not because it was easy, not because anyone was watching, but because you made a promise and you kept it. That's what builds confidence, not affirmations or hype, but evidence. Evidence that you are capable of hard things, that you can handle discomfort, that you are stronger than your excuses. That's where real self-esteem comes from. And when you live from that place, you don't need external validation anymore. You don't need motivation to get moving. You've already become someone who gets it done, no matter what. So the next time you don't feel like it, whatever it is, remember this. That's the moment that matters most. That's the moment where discipline is forged. Anyone can work hard when they're motivated. That's easy. The real growth happens when you show up on the days you don't want to. Real power is built in the hours when no one's clapping, no one's watching, and no one's cheering you on. You do it anyway, because that's who you've decided to become. Don't chase motivation, build discipline, make it your identity. Let it carry you when the energy fades, when the doubts rise, when the fear creeps in, because if you can learn to act without needing to feel ready, there's nothing you can't do. We live in a world obsessed with perfection. People scroll through social media, comparing their messy behind-the-scenes lives with everyone else's highlight reels, and they begin to believe that success is something that only happens when everything is polished, flawless, and planned. That belief is a lie. The truth is that success is not about perfection, it's about consistency. It's about what you do repeatedly, not what you do occasionally. It's about showing up not once, not when it's convenient, not only when you're inspired, but every single day, regardless of how you feel. Think about the most successful people in any area, athletes, entrepreneur, artists, leaders, and you'll find one common thread. They built habits. They didn't rely on motivation. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. One day, you feel unstoppable. The next, you can't even get out of bed. If you only act when you feel like it, you'll live a life that constantly stops and starts. But when you build routines, when you discipline yourself to keep going, even on the hard days, that's when everything begins to change. Because the consistency creates momentum, and momentum is what separates people who dream from people who actually do. The reason most people never reach their goals is not because they aren't smart enough, talented enough, or lucky enough. It's because they don't stay with it long enough. They start something new, they feel excited, they hit the first roadblock, and then they stop, then they move on to the next thing again and again, chasing fresh starts instead of building strong finishes. But real growth, real achievement that comes from enduring boredom, pushing through discomfort, from doing the same small actions day after day, even when no one's clapping for you, even when the results aren't immediate. Here's the hard truth: most of the progress you make won't be exciting. It won't be Instagrammable. It won't be a big dramatic transformation overnight. It'll look like early mornings, like late nights, like showing up when you'd rather hit snooze, like writing one page when you wanted to finish a book, like saving a few dollars instead of spending it. These little things feel small, but stacked over time, they become unstoppable. Tiny steps done consistently beat huge leaps done randomly. Every single time, the human brain is wired for patterns. What you do consistently becomes who you are. So if you keep making excuses, you become someone who settles. If you keep breaking promises to yourself, you become someone who can't be trusted even by your own mind. But when you honor your commitments, when you keep showing up no matter what, you start to shift your identity. You start to trust yourself. You begin to believe that you are the kind of person who follows through. And when that belief sets in, you become powerful in a way that no external praise can ever give you. Consistency is the real flex, not the car, not the followers, not the bank account. Those are the byproducts. The real achievement is building the kind of character that refuses to quit, the kind that shows up whether anyone sees it or not, the kind that trains in silence so it can perform under pressure. It's not glamorous, but it's real. And that kind of success, the internal kind, can never be taken from you. Don't fall into the trap of thinking you need to be extraordinary right out of the gate. You just need to be consistent. You don't have to get it right every single time. You just need to show up more times than you don't. That's it. Keep showing up for your goals. Keep showing up for your health, your growth, your peace, your future. Keep taking the small steps, the unsexy steps, the steps no one applauds, because those are the ones that build a life you're proud of. You are not competing with anyone else. You are competing with the version of you that keeps trying to talk you out of your potential, and you beat that version by proving day after day that you are stronger than your excuses. You beat it by showing up even tired, even scared, even uncertain. So don't wait for perfection. Don't wait for everything to line up before you move. Just move and keep moving. Build habits that align with who you want to become, and let time, patience, and repetition do their work. Success isn't an explosion. It's a slow burn. It's not a finish line. It's a way of living. A commitment to consistency is a commitment to becoming unstoppable. Start now. And